Here's a color grading hack that every professional filmmaker and colorist should know, and that's the HSV saturation method. That's hue, saturation, and value. Now let's talk about why this isn't your typical saturation boost. In the world of color, saturation is the intensity of your color. Too little and your footage looks washed out. Too much and it screams fresh out of a candy store. Now usually you might crank up the saturation slider and call it a day. But here's the thing, this can make your image noisy and it can make it look a bit amateur. So this is where our new technique comes in. We've got 3 distinct shots, a man laying on the grass in a narrative film, a woman in front of a projector with dope light beams and haze for an artistic shoot, and a commercial look with a woman wearing a VR headset. Now watch closely as we apply the HSV technique to each one of them. So normally what you would do is you would go to the saturation slider, which is at 50, and you would crank it all the way up until you get the saturation you desire. Right around here we're at 70, and you can tell that, I mean, you know, it works, but we could do so much better than that. So we'll go ahead and reset it. We're gonna right click, go to color space, select HSV, right click again, go to gamma 2.4, right click again, go to channels, channel 1 to select it, and channel 3 to select it. That's to select in the hue and value, leaving us only with saturation. We're gonna go to the gain primary wheels. We're gonna crank that up to about 23. And as you can see, his skin particularly, and the greens and the blues are much more dense. There's a lot more depth to that color. Moving on, we have the girl in front of the projector. If we were to just crank up the saturation to about the same as the last one, 70, as you can see, our image looks very punchy, but not quite what we want. Without it, if we were to subtract color because we felt like it was too saturated, then it gets washed out really fast. Again, we're gonna right click, color space, HSV, right click again, gamma 2.4, right click one more time, channels, to select channel 1, to select channel 3, and instead of using our saturation slider, we're gonna go ahead and use the gain. And very quickly you can see how increasing the gain adds much more depth to the colors in a non-destructive way. The colors are a lot more dense, they're a lot more film-like, they feel much more alive. Now on to our last image. We have a woman who is wearing a VR headset, and the image is very bright and very colorful, resembling that of which you would probably see in a commercial. Now this image is already pretty vibrant, it's pretty saturated. Now if we were to increase it to about 70, just like our other clips, you could probably get away with it in this particular case. But the moment that you try to desaturate it a little bit, you start getting a washed out image because we don't really have control over just the saturation. So we'll reset it, right click, color space, HSV, right click again, click gamma 2.4 to select channel 1, to select channel 3. We'll go to gain and we'll increase it just a little bit. Our image is saturated, but not overly saturated. You can kind of see this in her hands. See how they were just really red before, now they're not. And that's really what we're going for. We're going for balance. Similarly, if we wanted to desaturate it a little bit, you can see that it's a lot more subtle. It doesn't feel washed out, it just feels balanced, and that's really the only way that you can describe it. It just feels like film. So give your films the color they deserve. Play around with the HSV saturation method and watch as your footage goes from being just another clip to absolute cinematic gold. Remember to hit subscribe, like this video, drop a comment if you want to keep leveling up your color grading game. And I'll see you in the next one.